Alrighty, we're back. Another episode of Leisure Hour Radio. As always, I'm your host. I'm Mike Linehan. I'm coming to you live from an undisclosed basement location somewhere in Massachusetts, somewhere in Austin, Texas, somewhere in District of Columbia. Who knows, man? Who knows? Maybe I'm Alex Jones. Rumors are he was the smartest man in the world, Alex Jones, going door to door, knocking door to door because of school shootings. And supposedly he's dead. Everybody I heard when I was looking in the shit in the grapevine, Alex Jones dug himself into the basement of a Wendy's in Austin, Texas, and recorded over 25 years worth of podcasts and released them over time to make it seem like he's alive. I don't believe it. Who cares? But it's Halloween. Happy Halloween, everybody. It's a great time to be alive. Everybody's figuring out what they want to be when they're older. Hey, you want to be this? I want to be that. Uh, look at him over there. He's dressed as a woman. Doesn't even know it's Halloween. Tough town, tough town, tough town. Usually the toughest towns have the most cross dressers, and it's just got a lot to do with people wanting to be tough. You can live your life wanting to be tough enough, you end up a tranny. And it's a beautiful thing. But yeah, people are figuring out what they want to be. I wanted to be a police officer. I wanted to be a criminal. So why don't we start tonight on Halloween? It's really simple. In a small town, though, in a small town, sounds like a Stephen King novel. In a small town. Can anybody even hear what I'm saying? No. Hey, hey, Macarena. I honestly, cause you usually, I got like a little sound bar, and I can tell what's going on. What's going on? What's going on, man? What's up with you? Nothing much. It's just tough, man. I'm my own audio, visual, AV coordinator. I'm the most coordinated man in the business. It's a tough life, tough life. I'm just looking for a wife. But yeah, so everybody's figuring out what they want to be when they get older. Is it a firefighter? Is it a police officer? Is it a hamburger specialist? Football player? Um, a lot of adults are figuring out they wanted to be pedophiles their whole life. Tonight's usually in the night. Shit gets spooky on Halloween, and I'm just thankful. You know, it reminds me of my first day at college. Professor came out my first lecture. It was just like an orientation. I was just hanging out, and he said, chances are one person in this room is going to be a pedophile. So I stood up and I said, "Not it," and I wasn't. I wasn't a pedophile. So the moral of the story is, I think you should stay to the right path, stay on the right path. My town, man, place where I went trick or treating as a young kid. It was filled with drama. It's one of the oldest towns in Massachusetts. Very large town, very large town. For the time, it was one of the largest towns in Massachusetts. Split up. Town next to it became a town. We wanna do our own thing, and unfortunately, back in the day, our own thing just meant we wanted to rape ourselves. So everybody was just a bunch of rapists, and The town, it was one of the first places to have public schools. The public school system I was involved in as a young child, as a juvenile delinquent at some times, and, it was the first public school system in America. So, they had a lot of time to figure out how to destroy people's lives. It's so solemnly is always the case, people when they're involved in education, involved in a town, involved in this, involved in that, everybody's all coming together too much. People are doing things and they feel like they're a part of it. Halloween. Hey, I'm gonna put up a skeleton in my yard. Everybody's doing it. Everybody's doing it. What if everybody is doing something else? And you're the only one in this town putting up decorations. Here, I got a knife made out of silicone. And what if you're just in a town, man. You're in a town and you're the only one that celebrates Halloween. And dude, that'd be dark, you know? What a fucking holiday to celebrate. And what if you're the only one that doesn't know Halloween exists? Every year, once a year, there's demons on my street. Hey, hey, somebody call the Ghostbusters. I'm all fucked up mentally. People don't know what's going on. I do. I see it outside. I don't see those fucking little demons as little demons. They're children in costumes. And that's good. That's good. Uh I'm sure there's people out there that, yeah, it makes you never think. I'm sure there's a whole lot of people that don't even know what Halloween is. That must be scary. Imagine if Santa was real and and you just didn't believe it. So everybody knows. So all these holidays, they had some weird shit going on with them. They're all tied either to religion or like maybe Halloween has had ties to the cultic. There's a lot of conspiracies why it exists. I learned about one reason why it's possible why Halloween happens or why it started in a suburban neighborhood in the United Kingdom, I believe. It was the 1950s, 1960s era. Um, they were trying to come up with a way to scare people out of their town, I believe it was. And I think Halloween's always been like kinda like, it's been used in that way as kinda like a scare tactic, like, "Oh shit, there's some gabagools outside of my house?" There's, thinly sliced meat outside walking on the streets. But yeah, uh, for sure For sure, there's gotta be a rhyme and a reason to everything, every holiday, and obviously Christmas it's about a guy coming in your house without your knowledge. Maybe "Hey, we're waiting for him. Hey, everybody in my neighborhood, we're being taught how to wait for a guy coming into our house that night, and hey, we're leaving him stuff?" So that's a dark one. I did the milk and cookies thing myself. Looking back, ashamed. No, just kidding. I wasn't raped. People were though. People fucking were, man. People always are. So, that's the reality of life. You gotta know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and all this. So people, Halloween's German. Everything's German to these people. Hansel and Gretel. Fucking, fucking Hansel and Gretel. Uh, leaving trails behind. Imagine if you found a breadcrumb trail in the woods. You're alone, hiking for pleasure, not survival, and you come across an elaborately scattered breadcrumb trail. It's like Salt Bay was in these woods, sneaking around back there, leaving trails, you know. And the question is, would you go after the bread trail? Would you go down the rabbit hole? I already have. Hey, like I said, I've been to Austin, Texas. That doesn't mean much to a layman, but if you get your memory back, you know what's going on. You know this, you know that. It's an interesting time. But just think about that for a minute. What was Hansel's game? You know, how many detectives at the time were going to be able to spot out that's a breadcrumb trail? We got to follow that back. We're on to something. You know, how many sleuths were there? That's why these German fairy tales, they're all fucked up, man. And believe it or not, Halloween isn't that bad of a holiday. You know, it's fun. It there's a lot of shit that goes hand in hand with spycraft and Halloween, and that's why, dude, it's kind of dark. Back in the day, people were getting bounced and bounced and bounced around town, out of houses, out of buildings, being told they were spies, you know, passed around this, that, and it starts as a child, you know, just like I was mentioning, like all this, like learning how to like set up your house for a guy to come in at night and for him to have a good time. Um, Pretty dark on Christmas, but yeah, there's all this shit that's going on, and people's ideas can be manipulated in certain ways, and it can be real shady. And a lot of people are driven by a sexual drive. People their life is it's a sexual quest, and it's usually not based in a good sexual relationship, sexual lifestyle. It's usually based in as much trauma as possible, and they're angry. They're taking it out on everybody. You know, they all wanted to be firefighters, and little did they know they all could have been. You know, it's not that hard. So yeah, and so Halloween, hand in hand with spycraft, you know, dressing up like girls. I dressed up like a chick one Halloween. Yeah, I regret it. Um, I didn't get fucked. Ah, whew. Nah, I'm just kidding. That's not that bad. But yeah, so like everybody's dressing up like a FBI agent, all this, all these different uniforms, all these different costumes. It's a very interesting time. It can be fun. But all that it's rooted in some deep problems. If you know anything about like people that frequent open mics, you know their families all came up with lies and like, dude, just like different weird shit to like get them to like be able to like be trained to get raped and then carry it on. So like families, like there's hierarchies of families that have all been raping each other for like fucking hundreds of years, dude. And people don't get this because it carries on, and for whatever reason, the people that like just can't like look at Halloween like, hey, you're dressing up, you could be this, you could be that. It's whatever. You should do it for yourself. It's just one night a year where there's the availability to go to costume stores all around the country, you know, and it's fun. And there can be like school parties and stuff, costume parties, and that's not bad. But then as you get to an adult, all these slutty outfits, all these women, it's there one night, you know, they don't have sex, so they're ready to take on the town. And I want to have sex with these chicks for sure. They're hot. They're in all these costumes, but like, let's be honest with ourselves. How many women have you met that have sex with men while awake, you know? And I've met hundreds. I only know that because I had sex with them, you know? Cruel reality of life. And yeah, so dude, it's like fucking, it's like guy, it's like dude, you start talking from like a guy that got fucking raped out of talking like a normal person. That's why they talk like that, you know. I'm from it. I grew up around it, dude. A lot of people I grew up with all were angry, pissed off at the world, jealous of their people because their home lives just weren't too good. It creates a bully. And to go on in a town that has Halloween stores, has all this, all that. We have one night a year. We have one night a year where everyone does this. It's pretty quick to see that everybody could just it could change one night only. We're changing everything, these that's how these people think, that really, like, wow, tonight's the night. Yeah, what they plan on doing is raping someone from their community and then all killing themselves. You see this, it's basic, uh it's basic, like, cultic behavior. But, that's why you see, like, a cult classic movie, why you see, like, there are cults attached to Hollywood, because they do these things that are very ritualistic, very community, very town, very right now, very we're all in this together, and it can all lead bad. It can go in the wrong direction today or tomorrow. Right now, 10 minutes ago, 10 minutes from now, anybody can just fucking change who they are, um, for the worse. With sexuality, because when you know most people, you don't know them for who they are in the bedroom. You don't know them for their sex. You don't know them for this. You don't know them for that. You know them because you work with them. You went to school with them. You grew up, maybe you played on the same sports team as them. So you don't look at other people like a sexual object, but some people do. Especially if it's like a real, like, off case, like a local politician, local good guy, becomes like a senator. Everyone in there that they went to high school with will become fucking homeless like that, outside of their house, and in the woods outside of their house, if they have it, which Massachusetts does have. And they'll all just fucking start bombarding the house every. You see this all the time. You actually do. Politicians don't want this out. The reason why they get people sex trafficked is because the people they go to high school with follow them, and they know them, and they have all these emotional problems. And it's like the whole the TV show Entourage was everything on HBO is government funded. If you don't know, I wasn't supposed to tell anyone this. It doesn't matter. There's no one gonna watch this, but it's government funded in one way or another. Sopranos, a show like Peaky Blinders, all these tough guy shows are there's something going on, but we could talk about that. But yeah, so what was I talking about? I was talking about HBO. Um, fuck. Oh, just like, yeah. Oh, so, like, yes, the reason they sex traffic people because they all get raped in one way or another. Um, Whether it be Secret Service details that really, who the fuck knows? Who cares what's going on? Shit like that. I do. I don't want this going on in my country. There's an election brewing. There's always an election brewing. There's a war always brewing too. But that's not what I wanted to talk about today. I genuinely wanted to get into my backlog, my story. We started off with Alex Jones. We started out, you know, believe it or not, I think he's alive. It could be a lie. He could be dead. Um, it's interesting to talk about. Think about it. What do you think? You think it's possible for a celebrity to, like a celebrity of now, right now, in a time where you can record all this stuff, you can do all this, you can go to this city where they have everything in place to make yourself a star. You could, do you believe that someone would be willing to do it all in a year, a couple years maybe, and record years and years and years of footage just to die and have it all be released after to make it look like they're alive? That's a conspiracy worth looking into. But that's a fucking lot of work, man. It's better to just live it out. But if I know anything from growing up in the town with the first public schools in the United States of America and attending them through K through 12, I know there's a lot of motherfuckers willing to put in the leg work, dude. They are willing to put in the work for stupid, dumb shit that they, in their minds, insane people are always going to be insane. People, they genuinely think that they are going to take down the system with them. But I don't believe it's possible. I don't think it is. If the system was going down, man, if AI was going down, it would already happen. It would have. Y2K was too real. People forget the LA riots. The spark of the LA riots was just to pull everyone down before the new turn of the century. There's always an event like that. In the 90s. People say this, the 80s, the 90s, the 70s, the 60s. Well, you forget about what about back in the 1960s? People were saying that shit. About the 1860s, about the 1890s, 1850s, 1840s. So it goes on. History repeats itself in a chain where there's always people that don't wanna. We don't want this, and they don't want it for their life, and it's dicey, man. So yeah, you never know what people were doing back in the 90s. Makes you think, hey, 90s kids would only know this, 90s kids would only know that. Well, here's a secret you don't want to know, man. People in the 90s were that was the era where roofies were perfected, where they figured out how to incorporate rape drugs into alcohol, in the different different drugs and shit that could alter your sleep, alter your entire life, who you are. And it was dark, man. It was a real dark time. I was battling against them. If you know anything about Project Paperclip, the government brought Nazis here after World War II. We brought them here because the Nazis were willing to experiment on people, unlike any other doctor, any educated doctor of the time wasn't doing the experiments that people associated with Project Paperclip would be doing or were doing, and we're going to continue to do under the authority of the U.S. government. I feel like there should have been like some spy music or something there, but yeah, hey, and they continue to do it, and why am I talking about that? Oh, rape drugs. Yeah, and they figured out a bunch of rape drugs. That's true. Um, People associated the Project Paperclip. They're working on ways for different people to get passed around and raped as a punishment, and this was already being done. You see, you don't have to look too far to tell like where the where this person was in their life when they're involved in the political minefield that's going on right now. You look at like Jay Leno's garage. If you really want to find out who Joe Biden is, he's a guy that got a Corvette for his first car, and that's dark, man. It's dark. Imagine being 16 years old with the name Joe and driving a Corvette. Nobody knows what I'm fucking talking about besides like three psychologists. But yeah, hey, it's a dangerous life, and and dude, like you deal with this, you deal with stuff like this in Massachusetts because it's one of the first places they got all this stuff is in place, medically, scientifically, and education wise. There's more education opportunities in Massachusetts than most states. I'd say Massachusetts and California both on the cutting edge of having facilities tied to universities. Some in DC, you see like with John Hopkins, um, but more in Boston with smaller schools that are more center focused and real tight knit. You could see where there would be problems coming when you just mentioned the word tight knit. But I was involved in all of these circles. I went to the most prestigious academy as a young child. I was a gifted youth. I was a gifted boy, and I was. I went to Noble's Early Education School, Early Education Academy, and I graduated. Considered one of the most gifted youth ever in Massachusetts. So with that, I was thrown into a life that I, I I I didn't know was possible. I didn't know there were so many adults willing to take down a child, which was preposterous to me. It was all very strange, but it made sense. It made sense to them because as a child living in the modern world, modern realm with technology, times have never been better than this. That's what they say. That's what people say. The principal at your elementary school probably looked at children and thought, man, I wish I was a fucking kid right now. Imagine how much I would be ripping it up. And that's like what people think. But I was in Massachusetts, so I had the fucking realest people like that looking at me like, imagine if I was a fucking kid right now. Imagine if I was a kid right now. That's what they think. And that's why they go after kids because they're imagining if they were a kid right now. No one else. Hey, no one's imagined if you were a kid right now, dude. Relax. But they are. You know. You ever talk to someone that's like, hey, if I was a kid right now, I'd be fucking, I'd be a big deal. I have. I've met people like that. And dude, there's no difference in the times. Like, people are always people. Whether you're running around with an iPhone or a rock, it really doesn't matter. We all did it. We all had pet rocks. The 90s. But yeah, we all, dude. Imagine if I was a kid back in your time. I would be fucking. I would be fucking. Nobody even knows what to say. The only people that are willing to start a conversation off by saying, "Imagine if I was a kid." Um, it doesn't matter where they're going. It's just weird. Like nobody wants to imagine you being a kid. Only pedophiles want to imagine an adult as a kid. Imagine if you were a kid right now. I don't do that. No, no, excuse you. But yeah, and there was a lot going on. So I graduated from this academy, top of the class. Very few graduations. I went to a lot of school, but what they do in this town, they perfected it. They know that the Project Paperclip. Oh, side effect of this drug, side effect of that drug. How do you think we know all these side effects of drugs, guys? It's they were experimented on the Nazis, and with that, they they found out there was a lot of drugs that lead to amnesia, loss of memory, and there's more drugs that cause loss of memory than you would ever imagine. They're all side effects of just drugs and alcohol. It always has been since the beginning of time, and since the beginning of booze and drugs. Since they were first invented, and it's a fact of life. So especially now Alzheimer's and dementia's at an all-time high, and it all has a lot to do with to coordinate with Project Paperclip because these Nazis they were willing to test anything, everything on themselves, on their people, on whoever they could get it on. So they got more research and results from the time after World War II to about 1960s, lead up to Vietnam War with drugs. And in that war, you saw fucking more fucking shit being pumped out into people's blood in times of war, times of peace, just in a neighborhood or on the battlefield. You saw more people were being juiced up with the shit that was tested out in this time. And yeah, so that's basically why during the Vietnam period, 1916 to 1975, 1978, with the bacteria spreading in New York City, all this went hand in hand with why we're at an all-time high with dementia and Alzheimer's. And there could be a class action lawsuit in New York. There already is some. Camp Lejeune, actually, a lot of people are going to experience mental decline if they already haven't from what was going on there. And that'll be a class action lawsuit for sure, on top of the one that's already going on um, with people getting cancer. And hey, it's part of the job. Part of the job, I guess. I wouldn't sign up for a fucking job. One second. Yeah, yeah. So they figured out a whole lot of ways to erase people's minds, and it is what it is. You know, it's for sure mind erasing. But it's just a side effect of drugs, antipsychotics. You could do cocaine, you could do a stimulant and experience amnesia. You could do an amphetamine and experience amnesia, an opioid and experience amnesia. All this has been happening forever. But as time went on, as synthetics went on, as lab made drugs went on, it stemmed from LSD. LSD was one of the first like stable compounds, somewhat stable compounds made in the laboratory that was considered a psychedelic drug, and it is a very strong psychedelic. Um, Always has been interesting, but they were able to create it in the laboratory, and with this, more drugs were being made, more powder drugs, more pressing, more pressing, more pressing in the pill form. Actually, yeah, that is true, and so with that, you saw a lot of shit go down. When people say a lot of shit goes down, people's lives go down. That's what they're talking about. Like, hey, it went down. I've talked to the only people that like say like, hey, it went down, and they like try to make it seem cool. Uh, they're retarded. They all are. Yeah. But people, they don't know. They all drug themselves. People in Massachusetts are trying to die over a long period of time. It's the fucking truth. Uh, it always has been. It's sad. So yeah, with the movement in more of like a powderized form of drug, it actually led to more research in amnesia, different studies. How much of this person's life can we make them forget? And they were able to do it. And it all went hand in hand with jealousy, anger, uh, emotion, love, money. What would you use this technology for? If somebody was capable of making something that could alter your mind so you can't remember a certain amount of time, what would it be used for? And the problem is, the only thing it would be used for on a large scale, a lot, a lot, would be rape. It would be sexual. It would be using people, creating them in sex slaves. Um, it's exactly what would happen. You know, they're not bringing in people that people. You get in a car crash, you get in a traumatic event, you get punched, you get shot. If you're alive, you should remember. If you get raped, y it's alright. It's not your fault. Go to the police. Remember, it's terrible. Speak to a therapist, but you don't give up your mind because of a bad time. And with that, you saw what when people were capable of erasing their minds, eradicating their minds, they still are, but it's not as technical anymore as the people that figured it out. And they all they were doing, they were just using it to have sex with each other unconsciously because they figured out roofies and they figured this out. And it's too hard to rape somebody. They would say, "Why are you still doing it?" They're just erasing their own minds to continue raping people now. It's not even the victims getting their minds erased. The victims don't even know it's happening to them. You know. And that's why the Nazis, they didn't make sense. No one could fucking work with these people. They were just people that I'll be honest with you, they tortured each other, tortured themselves. It- The that culture leaks, man. That culture travels, dude, and it makes its way around, especially the U.S. government, thinking, "Oh, they're cool, dude. They're the cool kids, you know." And people actually thought that shit, you know? Back when roofing started going around first time around, there were clubs. We joke about it, in the zeitgeist, but there were clubs like roofie clubs that like fraternities almost, rape cults, all of this. It's nothing to joke about it. It's the fucking real deal problem of the world. And you see people going to bars. Oh, I'm nervous of this. I'm nervous. You shouldn't go to a bar. You know, nobody should, unless it doesn't erase your mind. And there's altercations at bars all the time, man. I've came across a couple Nazis at a fucking bar before. I made the right choice for myself that night. It's to live. You never put yourself in a position where you're gonna die, you know? And it's entirely possible at bars, but that is true. So just at the time where mind erasing, where there was a period of time where they knew how to erase how to make you forget a certain amount of time. 24 hours, 48 hours. If you take this, you'll forget last week. You'll forget the past 7 days. That everybody was working on this in their circle, in the U.S. government, the Nazis, the Russians, the Chinese, and it was all for the same reason, man. It was all for the same reason. But if you look at through a clear lens, if you actually look at this, how it is, all research can be good research. The fact of the matter is, all drugs pretty much have a side effect and a possibility of amnesia. It's sad, and if it's just possible, it is. It, it might possibly always be the case. And so with their research into mind erasing, oh, this is my mind eraser. This is my they didn't call it that. They just called them rape drugs. But with with that, you see on commercials, Zoloft was initially a rape drug. Um, it went widespread. Um, Anxiety medication, Xanax, that was made for people that get raped, and same with muscle relaxers that work in politics. Like, you ever heard of like, oh, I wonder who's got this like the best medicine? Like, it's gotta be like the richest people, but it typically isn't. It typically isn't, man. Yeah, it actually isn't. Typically, the people that are getting the most medicine are the most like just like fucked up. Like, you look into their life, and it's filled with like sexual crime, and it's just sad. But those are the people that like, so let's say Secretary of Defense right now. She's or he, I don't even know who it is. Just like they're looking for someone, you know. They're not gonna go with somebody that's gonna that's young, budding, and willing to change things for the better. No, they're gonna go with somebody that's willing to play the game, and that makes sense. And you play the game, you just end up living longer, and you don't live better. Your living situation, you might have a couple tiles, you know, mosaic tiles. You might have you might have the best bath loofah, you know. It's infused. I believe it, you know. You might have $2,000 toilet, tankless water heater, you know. It's all good stuff. It all is. But if if you're playing the fucking game, dude, and it's a dirty bird game, I don't know if it's worth it. I I traveled to Austin, Texas. I slept on the floor of my apartment on 6th Street. Weeks. Slept on the floor. It was dark. Oh, it was dark. Oh, so yeah, mind erasing drugs. Yeah, I didn't have my mind erased there, but it can be it's possible for it to happen through satellite rays. It is, but chemtrails. Either way, the uh, the mind erasing it didn't. It's not what led to chemtrails. That was a way to kill, like with gas. Zyklon B, which is it was actually changed. Zyklon B for some people could it actually just it wouldn't kill you. It would create a spike in white blood cells in your lungs, and that's kind of like what a sports inhaler would do. Um, so only people with bad genetics necessarily um would have died with they weren't used. They didn't have like the Nazis in 1940s weren't capable of making like large scale amounts of gas to gas like large populations. That's why they were confined. If you look in Auschwitz, those gas chambers aren't that large, but it's fucking dark. Just being trapped in there, even like person with good genetics being trapped in like a corridor like that, almost how it was set up with that many people, the lack of oxygen could affect you pretty badly, and that's true. Sorry, I'm just looking at some. Yeah, so that's true, and yeah, so chemtrails. It's how you can manipulate the weather. Actually, that's where they've gone with it, and that's real. So, but something similar with all this research. The only thing they came across as a viable option, viable solution, or a good use for amnesia medication would be for rape, sex, making people into sex slaves, making people into regular slaves, and turning geniuses into idiots, and making people homeless, or just making anyone into an idiot, um, taking away who they are. So, like I told you, my first home, I was genius going to all these higher education schools, camps, music camp, gymnastics camp, rock climbing, all this shit, learning all this stuff that could translate to being a spy, or translate to just being an intelligent person from a young age, like from 3. I was one of the youngest people ever people ever to build a koi pond. Built it. My blood, sweat, and tears went into that fucking koi pond, man. I was a young kid. I was about fucking 5, 6 years old. Built a koi pond, my backyard. It was great. It was great. And then we were moved. That's what they would do. They'd find someone that they wanted to erase their mind. They'd hit you with the drugs that erase your mind and put you in a different house. So it's like, oh, you're a completely different person. You have your life. What they figured out, you wouldn't believe like you were a different person after having your mind erased. They knew that people wouldn't um the idea of adults not knowing where babies come from. That's they knew it was just about not telling people. So yeah, people were holding information from each other. They thought it was funny, like, hey, there's like a fucking 45-year-old dude in town that doesn't know you have to have sex with a woman to have a baby, you know? Well, how do you think you get a baby? And then how do you think you get a baby? And then everybody thinks the government just comes and brings you a child to your house. You don't. That's what they used to do. And then CPS, Child Protective Services, was created, and they didn't do much. Never really helped anybody that wasn't being raped or molested. So they did help a few, but they would just bring you to another place that was exactly like that. So it's pretty fucked up, and I feel for those people. And you should see a therapist or a psychologist. But yeah, CPS changed its name recently. Actually, they're going in an even worse direction. I assume. But that's why it's so important to have pride in being a good father or a good mother, because no one else is going to do it for you. And you shouldn't bring anyone into this world unless you're dedicated to their life as much as you're dedicated to your own. And you are in a relationship with someone you love and you plan on being around and together with in this journey, it's the right choice. I recommend making it. I wouldn't bring a child into this world making the wrong choice. It's a dark road, man. It's a dark road. You want to have a kid out there getting raped and molested because you didn't fucking father him? No, I don't. So I don't. But one day I am gonna have a kid. I should. As I should. So yeah, they would move you to a completely different home after having your mind erased, having amnesia, and that's when the lies would set in. You ever heard of living in a lie? Well, that there's two different versions of that. People like the guy that doesn't know where babies come from, like that's been lied to. Oh, just mess with. That's living in a lie, but it's someone else's lie. There's people that live in their own lies. They lie to themselves so much they start to believe it, and you're dealing with all these people at once because mind erasing. If it's going on for one person, it's most likely happening to a lot of people. Everybody's quick to forget, in this town. We're just all quick to forget. Fucking hilarious. But yeah, that typically means there's a lot of raping going on. And yeah, so you gotta research it. It's a fucking serious problem. It always has been. It always fucking has been. And since actually became fentanyl was the best thing ever made, since there's a whole lot of drugs that are being used still to this day, being sold for mind erasing, this, this, and a lot of the people taking them are rapists to this day, and fentanyl is being cut with everything. You know, they're putting it cheapest fucking synthetic drug ever made the way they're making it right now in China. I'm not gonna give you the details on that. I met a guy that was moving it here while I was in Austin, Texas. He probably killed himself. Tough road to be going down, but yeah, they're killing a lot of people with fentanyl, and so that's why, like you see on the news, don't do drugs. Don't buy any drugs. don't associate with bad people. The world's kind of healing itself in a real fucked up way, and yeah, that's the truth. Um, but yeah. Besides that, so yeah, they figured out how to like just fuck with people's minds. Everybody's been doing it forever, you know. Like it's fucking hilarious, dude. This guy fucking is retarded. He used to be a president of the United States. You don't think that's funny? I like I think it's funny the way I say it, but dude, that's literally what they were doing. Jimmy Carter, all these people that were involved when by the time it got really good, the mind erasing, the rape, all the other drugs that go hand in hand with it, the blood doping, all these people, they didn't remember their fucking lives. There's people that are being talked about on the news, on TV, that were politicians, that were famous people, they don't even remember themselves because of this. Still to this day, and they're alive, and it's fascinating, man. It's interesting. But people do it to themselves. It's voluntary because of what they do to children, erasing people's memories of uh childhood, and it's dark, you know. But hey, every now and then they can all say, yeah, but look at that guy, he's retarded now. We did that to him, you know, and that's what keeps them going. But they when people start saying kicking around the word they, you know, that can mean some dark stuff. It always could have meant some dark stuff, you know. But typically when they start saying they're talking about like a shadow society. I just want people to know that, and there are many. The Illuminati has to hire me eventually. Nah, I'm just kidding. Jay Z hates me, but same with Beyonce. The Illuminati's all black people that used to be white. I know you guys. Chill out. Don't try to kill me. But yeah, so they were. Oh, the idea of lying to somebody for your own pleasure, for your own enjoyment, it's called a disinformation campaign. You're feeding them false information, and it's for a purpose. As of recently, the more intelligent side of the government, which there is, has done disinformation campaigns in kind of like a kind of like an area wherever the fuck Argo was, Contra, what's it called? Iran Contra. So Iran was kind of like that. There's a lot going on, and you could have used disinformation campaigns as good, and they had a lot of practice in it, but they didn't really do it. It's never really been done, um, because they can only do it to somebody, to a person that they like grew up with and went to high school with. So it's fucking weird. But you could actually clean up a neighborhood. You could clean up an area of the country with a disinformation campaign, or another country, for sure. And you wouldn't have to use mind erasing. Actually, yeah, everything's highly possible. You know, you don't have to be a piece of shit at high school to move on to work for the government. That just means all those people that are like that, they just fall into some cult, you know, and and that's why there's a side of the government that's a complete cult, and it's shady. It's shady for sure. It's Slim Shady. What up, man? Yeah, it's dark. It's dark. It's dark. But yeah. So yeah, that's what the people have had practice at this for fucking thousands of years. Even before the drugs were causing amnesia like they do, there was always misinformation and lies going on. to specific people. Maybe it was a group. It's been done with groups, but yeah. Um, I'm called it disinformation. It could be that or misinformation. I'm just thinking about two things at once. So they got pretty good at lying to people about who they are. And if you know anything about the Nazis, they would be the ones that do it. That for sure would be the ones that are spreading lies, spreading rumors, and yeah, and they did. It bled into our school, and now still all over the same thing that happened to me, being lied to about who I am. And why does it matter who I am? Why does it matter that my relatives started the Assassin's Creed? Why does it matter, man? That's what I'm saying. But all that matters is oh, is it recorded? It truly doesn't. It truly doesn't matter. And all we have to do is keep moving forward in a better way. I live my life, and that's all I can do. My microphone. I hope this audio is recording. But yeah. So um, they're great liars. People are people are good at lying, and it's not that hard of a skill. I think anybody could lie, and so we'll get back to this. We're reaching the end of the show. If you have any questions or comments, you could send them in to my Instagram at Mike Linehan. Yeah. So next week I'll get back to this and we'll talk about misinformation and different people that have been played in this system. But it truly doesn't matter about who's who. Once you get into the once you get into all the who's whoing and all that, it's it's where you get into the weeds. It's where you get into the nonsense. And it's better to avoid it. It is for sure. So happy Halloween. I'll see you next week and thank you for listening.